Welcome back to Nebula Jazz, everybody, going into our number 3 of today's episode. So everybody wants in on this Eugene shit.
I guess so.
You are surrounded by these thorned desert lizard people, dwellers in the shadow of the mountain. You've just profaned the sacred well from which only the Blixnort Libelacta can drink. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Well, apparently everybody wanted to compel me to do shit. So what were your compels, y'all?
Yeah, Jesse, you had an idea for a compel for Eugene that you'd like to offer?
Yeah, so I would like to compel your that's my character sheet. I would like to compel your future richest slime in the galaxy. What you notice, because this is such a sacred town, is that encrusted in the walls of this village are beautiful, beautiful murals composed of rare gems and gold and all sorts of incredibly expensive things that you notice is like, oh my God, if I can figure out a way to stay here, I can get all of that shit. And so rather than try to talk your way out of it, you actually
talk your way into it.
Yeah, you want to stay, but not be killed. You want to stay, just not the killing part.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that. So what do you think? You got lots of fate points, Eugene. So if you really want to get away from these lizards, you can say no to Quinn's compel. But what do you think?
Well, I don't know. Like, what I wanted to do, I think lines up with that a little bit.
Okay.
So
to fulfill Jesse's compel, I have to accept first the knowledge that there are gems and like lapis and turquoise and like shit everywhere. It's very like lavish.
Right.
Which I'm happy to do because it doesn't cost me anything. I think it's hilarious. And then you just have to not leave, basically. So whatever the next thing you do is, you can still talk yourself out of the being jarred situation.
Yeah, it's not about not leaving. It's about you want not only to stay, but to find a way to stay and be able to steal their stuff while they're not, like, take all their gems and get out of there. So you want to stay long enough to take everything because you need all of that. Also, you're a slime, so where would you put it? I can't wait to see how this goes. I'm very excited.
That's like nearly. No, I'm not going to accept it because I don't think. Okay.
You went too far with it, Cox. Man,
okay.
You should have just said stay and take some jewels.
So instead of robbing this place, so maybe what we see to kind of semi-incorporate as we pan around, we get the reestablishing shot of all the lizards kind of like looming in, lurking towards you. The murals at one time were opulent. This splinter religion has always existed in the lizardman people, but it's fallen out of favor, especially in the last 50 years, because the Empress hates it. She hates the idea of the Blixnort Libelacta. So they've been outcast and they were robbed, right? We see where once beautiful jeweled murals stood, instead like ruins, the marks of pry bars as their riches were stolen from them by the Empire. So instead of the beauty, we see the scars that remain where those beautiful murals once were. Right. And so the priest has his staff of command out and is like shaking it, and everybody's like moving to grab you by whatever means they can.
I'm gonna So I'm gonna use my stunt, and as they're like all coming in on me, I go, okay, all right. I confess. I was sworn to secrecy, but I'll tell you, all right? I am the manager of the Blixnort. He is here. He is on the planet. We were separated, and I've been looking for him, but I know him personally, and he and I are very close. He lets me help him with everything. He would be very upset if I were to disappear.
Okay, so you're going to use your stunt to talk your way out of the situation?
Yeah. Okay,
so you say that, and the priest snarls at you and says, "You lie, creature. I can hear it in your words. You've come to deceive us, to ruin the sacred well." And he starts getting angry, and everyone starts hissing. And then there's a booming voice from up above that says, "No, step back, Imotak." and we look up and we see Yahe and Talochu, and they're wearing the robes. They're wearing the they're wearing the robes of the cult of the Blixnort. And yeah, Yahe has his arm out. He's like, "Stop, Emotak." And Emotak looks up. And Talochu, the other one, like he winks at you, Eugene, like, "We got this, don't worry." And Talochu is like, "What the slime mold says is true. We were freed, as you all know, by the Blixnort Libelacta and brought home to spread his word to you. This creature is known to us." And then there's like whispering, and then Emotak is like, "No, but the sacred law." And Yahe says, "But Emotak, is not the most sacred law of all to do what one feels? Look into your heart, my brother." And Emotak like kind of like looks confused, and he's like, Yes, I feel it to be true." And then there's like a cheer goes up from the crowd, and they immediately flip from like, "Kill the slime" to "Hooray, the slime." And you get like a them grab you, but instead of throwing you in the jar, they like raise you onto their shoulders and like kind of parade you around.
You slowly droop down.
Yeah, I was gonna say they try to do that, but I'm kind of like dripping onto the ground and like flopping off of them.
Yeah, it reminds you of the one time you tried to crowd surf. It didn't go well.
Right.
And so they're like trying to like, "Hooray! Oh God, it's in my mouth!" And like, yeah. And so at the end you get passed around, and you end up next to Emotak, and Emotak looks at you, and he says, "I hope that you will forgive me." And he puts out a claw to you, and he says, "I am the high priest of this village. My name is Emotak." And he puts his hand out to you.
What? You know what? All right. Like just.
Yeah, and so he grabs you and he pulls you in, and he's like, "No, we're huggers here." And he like grabs you and pats you back. Gives you a little squeeze.
Well, I'm Eugene, again, Blixnort manager. Pleasure to meet all of you. It's good to find believers out here in the horrible wasteland that nearly killed me. I'll make sure that you all get autographs for half price.
There's like some whispering, like a few of them are like, "Ooh, exciting, autographs, half price, yes." And Emotak holds you at arm's length after the hug, and he looks at you and he says, "I feel that this will be a powerful friendship." And he looks up, and you can see this mountain, and he says, "Would you like to see the Temple of Feelings?"
Sorry.
Boy, would I.
He
more than ever.
He nods and he says, "I know in my heart that you are worthy, for you have crossed the sands of self-doubt." And he like gestures behind you, and you look back and you just see this swirling desert.
And I felt it.
And he turns back and he looks, and you can see this winding staircase, and he says, "Good. Then all that remains is to climb the staircase of discovery." And he like kind of drags you along to go and climb the mountain. And so you leave the scene with him, and I think that Yahe and Talochu both like look at you nodding, like, "Yes, it's good to see you again, Eugene," as you pass by. And you don't get the impression, like you're used to running cons with people and stuff. They're not doing this to like they're not faking it. Like they really believe, like, "Yes, you're important because you travel with Quinn. We care about you because we're
right." Yeah.
Okay.
They weren't saving me with any kind of ulterior motive. They were like, "No, we have to save him."
Yeah, exactly. They're like, "No,
this
is
he's Eugene."
Jesse gave the lizards all our money, and now it turns out they live in a fucking El Dorado covered in gems.
It used to be. It's not anymore. Now they've fallen on hard times. But yes, they will use that money to print many pamphlets about the Blixnort Libelacta and why you should come to the shadow of the Temple of Feelings. So you head off to witness the temple, and we'll come back and I'll show you the temple in a minute. So meanwhile, in the capital, Quinn, you approach the site of your last sort of moments on the planet on Slynn, the last time you were here. I'm imagining like a big kind of like Parthenon-esque looking, like lots of columns, sort of a circular building with a dome on top. This was once the seat of power, not only for this city, but the world-spanning empire of Slyn. And that there's a garden of ruined statuary leading up to it, where the plants, they're still like vibrant, but they've kind of overgrown. So there's this kind of like jungle of thorny plants and like wildlife kind of overgrowing the area around it. And it used to contain statuary where if you looked at it from above, like if you're on one of the spaceships leaving the city, you could see a map of the empire. But now it's all overgrown, and we see these we walk by a big globe, and it's covered in moss and like vines. And it used to represent one of the planets here. And then the seen from above, the dome of command, the place where the council lives, would have been Slyn in this big galactic map. But now it's just this like jungle, this overgrown jungle, this kind of dark heart of the city. And so you enter the sort of jungle area, the park around the building. And there used to be guardians stationed here, right? Like this would be, you can see the place where you and your men would have stood to protect the 12 Serpentis, but the posts have all been left empty. And so you approach this jungle. Are you preparing your comrades for what might lie ahead at all, or are you just like silently striding towards your destiny?
No, I've definitely, as we enter the area, we slow our approach, and I turn back to everyone, and I sort of with a half chuckle say, "And this is where it gets dangerous," and give a look over the area, because I fully expect that the Empress will not just let us walk in here, and something's going to happen. So get ready.
Okay. All right. So you ascend the council stairs. And the inside of the council building is a bit like an arena, in the sense that in the middle there were the 12 seats of the councilors, and then out around the outside was an area where like the various sort of senators and planetary governors and stuff could sit to attend meetings of the council. And then in the very middle, there's a platform for the platform of address, where you could stand if you need to address the council. And the last time you were here, and I think we get these flashbacks as you pass through the scene. So in the present, they're all ruined, and the moss and vines have grown up into the bleacher kind of area. All of the stuff is broken. Everything is covered in this like the sand that blows in from the outlands. And so we can see that, but it also cuts to this like tense scene in the past of. And I feel like they all, regardless of what species they are, they're all wearing togas. Like, so we see, and this would be the place where we would throw in the like references to other things. So like we get a long pan around the Senate chamber, and there's a group of like obvious, these like bird looking creatures with like chainsaw, like jagged mouth parts, like talking to one another. And we see a bunch of other aliens that were all once part of the empire of Slyn. And they're all dressed in the counselors' togas around the central chamber. And we see, as they all like whisper in the light, we see that kind of darken that area, and there's just this pool of light where in the center, the 12 empty seats. There's still blood on the sand all around them, the 12 empty seats, and we see Quinn at the moment of his exile. So what do you look like, Quinn? Imagine this is kind of like the last scene of the prequel, like right before you get exiled. What do you look like on this? You're on the pedestal in the center, being like condemned.
Yeah, so he's shackled and completely and totally resigned to his fate. And he is essentially the same look that he has now, except his clothing is more along the lines of like when you think of ancient Aztec royalty, so like jade and
feathers and jade.
Yeah. And like crazy piercings and all sorts of insane stuff, but it's all made of just like, it appears to be ridiculously heavy stones and things like that. Like he looks infinitely more badass than just a lizard dude. Like he's definitely, I am a like killer guard and you don't want to mess with me but he
I love the implication too that as we like dress both the set and these lizard people, the implication here I keep going back to is that like lizard men built the pyramids, right? That like Earth was part of the Empire of Slyn, like back in the prehistoric times. Yeah, so we see you and are like the scars that we're used to seeing on Quinn, all these like battle scars, are some of them like fresh? Like we can still see them in the same place, but they're like, bleeding still from whatever fight you were just in?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Nice.
All of his different scars that he has on his body. In fact, most of the ones that that are really prominent are the ones that happened during this incident, and so he's covered in them because the lizard people, their scales and their skin and stuff, they shed over time, and so eventually all their scars go away. But that's why he has these still, because they're still fresh, and because they live so long. Old scars are gone, and so that's right. It's also one of those things that the feelings when those other guys talk about their feelings, they're like, just like your scars, eventually pain will go away, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're seeing this, you're seeing yourself like kneeling, and this is very much like a flashback scene for Quinn, where we can hear the angry like whispering, like all the counselors of the Empire have been brought back together at this moment of crisis to see, and I think that to see justice done, and I think that ahead of you, like all of the council seats have been symbolically covered. They have black cloth draped over them, save one. And because the light is behind her, we never actually see the Lady Vash's face. But she speaks to you from the pillar, and she says down to you, she says, Quinn, the punishment for your failure to perform your sacred duty. Do you say anything in response, or are you just like stoic and silent?
No, he's just, his head is down, and he's sort of looking at the ground rather than all these people who are like pointing, and some people are probably throwing shit at him, and like he's just a disgrace, and everyone hates him.
Yeah, and she says, the failure of your bloodline must be made complete. Those who share your disgrace must also be punished. And I think you hear a rattling of chains, and there's a snarling sound of like an angry lizard man. And we see for the first time on screen a lizard man of the same cast as Quinn, younger, like battle injured, right? Like he's probably still got like the broken ends of like weapons sticking out of him, and he's dragged in chains out into the light. And he's one of the other guardians, maybe like your like closest lieutenant or something. And like with all, like we were talking about, with all like the cast of Lizardmen, there he's also like your cousin or whatever, right? Because you're related by blood.
Yeah, we're all related. Yeah,
part of the same cast. And yeah, he's like dragged down in chains, and unlike you, like resigned, he's still fighting. And I think he snarls and he looks at you. He's like got one of his eyes is like missing. He has a big cut across his face, and a couple of his teeth are like broken out. And he looks at you, and he says, he's like, Quinn, we have to fight. Please. And then one of the women that have him in chains, one of the black, like the Viper guards, like hits him with a spear. It's a sci-fi spear, so it's like a laser spear or whatever. It hits him in the back of the head, and he staggers forward, and she hisses at him, and she's like, "Silence, male." And he like looks up at you like, "Please, like you have to do something."
Yeah, Quinn does nothing. Like he just sits there, like a complete letdown to everyone he knows and loves.
Yeah, and we see him dragged to his feet again. They knock him down and drag him back up to his feet, and he looks at you for a moment, like pleadingly, like, he's already tried to fight. We were at the tail end of what would have been like a huge battle, like the last stand of the Guardians, and there's just like you and him left, and the lady Vash, and we see her in just enough light to like see her smile under her like massive jeweled headdress. We see her smile down at you, and she says, she just says to the guards, like, "Do it." And there's like a hush among the crowd, and one of the Vipers stabs him in the chest with her spear, and he looks at you as the light fades from his eye, and he like falls forward, and they let go of the chain. He falls forward, and he like falls onto you, and this like bloody like handprint on your chest scales as he slides to the floor, and he just says to you like, "Brother," and like dies on the floor at your feet. And she says to you from the podium, her voice like amplified into the crowd. She says, "The punishment for your failure is exile." And it's like whispering. Everybody knows this, but they're still like shocked that it's happening. It's never happened before. And she says, "You must live out the term of your years, knowing that you have disgraced the empire, disgraced your people, failed the council. All that you were born to do, you have failed." And and then the women like grab your chain and like drag you to your feet, and she says to you, she says, "But I am merciful. Is there anything you wish to say before you are damned to never return to your home?" And like she's got this, no one can see her but you, and she just has this grin on her face like she's just fucking twisting the knife.
Quinn looks like he wants to say something and is about to say something, and looks down and sees the dead body of his brother / friend, and then puts his head down again and can't bring himself to say anything to her.
Yeah, and so she says with I guess with an official, like you can hear it in her voice. She's not just saying this, like she's practiced this. These are sacred words. And so she says, "By imperial decree, you are no longer Quinn Tloatzluak, guardian of the 12 Serpentis. You are nothing." And there's like a susurrus in the crowd as you get like dragged away, and she's like ritually like stripped you of your name. And I think that as you pass, we see you dragged through the same channel as you're entering. So we see both Quinn in the present and Quinn in the shamed Quinn in the past, and you kind of like pass through each other. And we see the last person to see you go as you're like dragged away to be put in the ejector pod to be like rocketed into space away from your planet, the exile pod. Load you into the exile cannon. We see a still old looking, but not quite as old, Slarp. He's just standing there holding some scrolls, and old Slarp watches you go, and he just like looks after you as you leave, and he kind of just shakes his head, and he shakes his head, not in like, oh, that guy, what, he's the worst, but just in a like miscarriage of justice, like shame that, as you get dragged away, and then we fade in as Aurora and Rex, the two of you climb these the last of these stairs and kind of come up into frame behind Quinn. And you notice, Quinn is just standing, staring into this sort of seemingly empty council chamber. It's all very shadowy and dark.
I think like Rex climbs up first and then just like lifts Aurora like up the last part of the way by her arm and just drops her down and sees Quinn like just taking it in and just doesn't want to intrude. So he just kind of just stands there in silence, waiting for him to move.
Sparky like jumps up after me, and immediately his eyes just turn into like flashlights looking around the room as like Aurora also looks around the room. Just curious.
Yeah, so it's a big kind of like auditorium sized building, engineered for acoustics. So every sound, like the sound of your feet on the stone, kind of like echoes. It's shaped kind of like a bowl. There's a flat area at the bottom, overgrown with weeds and stuff now, but there's sand in this platform you can see in the middle. And there are these 12 circular pillars that go around the outside, and they still have draped over them, covered in dust and beginning to sort of tatter, faded by the sun's passage over them. These like graying, like linen cloth, these funeral cloth draped over all but one of the seats. And one of the seats is lying there empty with these big stone pillar, and they're all quite high off the ground as well. So there's lots of shadows, lots of places for you to hide, but there could be anyone else in here. And as Sparky kind of casts his gaze around, you see the spotlight fall across the steps.
I think I just sort of like look back at Quinn because I think Aurora doesn't really know what to do and doesn't want to move on or touch anything.
Yeah.
Sits there.
Yeah. So Quinn, what do you do? Everybody knows you're here, so you know.
Is there anyone in this? I mean, are we here alone?
Yeah. You seem to be.
Quinn looks around, and then there's a on this sort of stand, this pedestal, there is a like a, I don't know, like a square kind of like column or something raised up on it, and a little stone there, and he takes it and sort of like mashes it to the ground.
Right.
Like
okay.
a calling, like someone better, and he just doesn't stop. He keeps doing it. Like,
right.
I'm not
This
gonna
like
stop till
loud,
someone
like,
shows the hell
clacking
up.
sound. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I think that in the shadows, so you're facing the empty chair. From the shadows, we hear this like slithering, this hissing sound. And then two of the vipers kind of emerge from the shadows. We can see them. They come up and they have those same pikes. And you're standing on this ancient blood stain where you're the last of your brothers died. And they slither out into the shadows and they like stare at you. And then we hear a hissing sound. There's more slithering. And then from behind them, we see in person for the first time, we see the Lady Vash. And she's like 20 feet tall. Like she's huge. And she comes up and she's like slithers, and we haven't had the scale of it yet because everything's been shot intentionally to make it look this way. But we see her at the same scale as you, and she like slides up the side of the pillar into her chair, and the chair is enormous. Like she's like, Snoke levels of enormous. And she like sits in her throne, and we can see she has these like long red jeweled nails, and her big like headdress that's the size of like, the side of a house. And she's wearing this like armored like sort of chest piece, and slithers up into the seat, and her long like black tail is curved around the column that she's sitting on, and she like seats herself in the chair and stares down at you with these huge red like snake eyes. Do you stop? Is it like clack and you like hit it one more time?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's like, she finally shows up and he just like slams it down, and the little pedestal that it's on, there's like a little dust of where it started to crack because he hit it so hard.
Right. It's like it's got cracks in the little. Nice. Yeah. I like that. Good touch. Yeah. So slam it down.
I'd like to compel Rex that he still has blood. Like he has not washed that off. He still has the blood of another one of those like Viper ladies on him.
Yeah, the former commander of the Black Viper assassination squad, Lady Zuhina, still, yeah, she can definitely tell, right?
Yeah, I want to say that like that he pointedly attempts to like intimidate, whether just by staring at them or by like kind of puffing himself up. He like wants the attention of the other Viper guards. He wants them to realize that like that he fucking took down one of them not that long ago, and they should be scared of him.
Okay, so that he's not making any effort to hide the fact that he's.
I think what happens is like she slithers up, and Quinn like smashes the stone down one last time, and they look at each other, and I think the little Viper assassins like move forward to like point their spears at Quinn, and from the camera angle you see Quinn straight on, and you see like Rex emerge from behind him to the side, and he just like snarls at them.
Just covered in blood.
You could just see like the dry blood of their commander all over, and he just kind of stops like a few paces to the right, a few paces back from Quinn, and he gives him the nod like, if you fucking take one step forward, I'm gonna eat you too.
Yeah. So it's tense. There's tension in the air.
Yeah.
And and
I can hide behind or something. Like, just get into cover now before
You're in it. You're in it now, kid.
There's the thing is that like Quinn and Rex are both standing in this pool of sunlight that's coming over, but everything else is quite shadowy. The thing has a natural sort of spotlight to it. If you want to stay hidden somewhere, you can make a sneaky roll to stay ace up their sleeve.
I think what I want to do is not just I would like to make a sneaky roll, but also what I want to do in this roll is not just hide, but also like switch Sparky over into Battle Doge and have him walk out to where he goes into battle doge and stands next to them while I'm sitting there in my little human form, just hiding like a little. I don't want to get eaten. He's 20 feet tall.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can have Sparky out in the open if you want to, and you hide. So you're just like, yeah, go look after them, and then you hide.
Yeah.
Go ahead and make a roll. I will roll. I'm gonna roll in secret, so you don't know if you're actually hidden or not. But you go ahead and make a sneaky roll. Actually, I'll roll it in the open because it's more fun if Pokket knows, even if Aurora doesn't. Okay, so you can spend a point if you want to either reroll or add 2.
I'm going to spend a point.
Okay, on what? Which aspect? Yes.
I travel with my loyal companion Sparky, so I want to say I'm as Sparky's walking out in his intimidating Rottweiler type form, I'm hiding.
So he's distracting from you.
Yeah, he's distracting them. So
Sure.
And he's doing it on purpose because it's to intimidate, kind of like Rex is trying to intimidate.
Right.
So.
Okay. So Sparky comes dashing up, snarling and growling,
It's got
and then
that DMX barking going on. Only it's deeper and more dog-like, robotic dog-like. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you run and hide.
Yeah.
So Quinn, you have her attention. She's here. You're in exactly the same spot you were the last time you were before the Empress. And I think that when we cut to Quinn, we can hear the distorted kind of audio, like you can hear the whisperings of the senators as they all glower down at you. You can feel the pressure of their loathing on you, and you remember her red eyes and that sneer in the darkness. What do you say? What do you do?
Yeah, as you hear the echoes of the past, the last thing that you hear is her saying, "Do you have anything you want to say?"
Mm-hmm.
And cut to the present, and Quinn looks up at her and stares at her, and says, let's see if I can remember this again. I am Quinn Tlatelok, the last guardian of the 12 Serpentes, the damned son of Slyn. Today, you will lament and remember your choice not to run. And then he looks down at the stone and smacks it again, and then repeats the exact same sentence over and over and over again every time he slams down the thing again, and the little pedestal starts to crack and crumble, and he just keeps doing it.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
And
and
if she tries to interrupt him, he just says it louder.
Yeah. I think she just watches, and the Vipers, they get tense, right? Because they're every time you do it, they flinch a little, kind of have their spears pointed, they're not sure what's gonna happen. And she doesn't try to interrupt or anything. But what do you do? She doesn't attack, but she watches patiently while you have your moment, and then it sort of pans around the room, and by the time it's done panning around the room at all the places where people used to be, and all the tents, Viper Guard, and all the it cuts down to the pedestal, which is completely crumbled into rubble, and the rock itself is just totally effed up, and his hand's a little bloody, and he's been bashing the shit out of this thing, and he lets it fall out of his hands, and just stares her down, and waits for her to say something.
Well, into this intense moment, am I able to try and discover an aspect?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I'd like to try and I guess as she's doing that, I'm sort of scanning about the room, but I'd like to discover an aspect about I guess the room that we're in, sort of an environmental aspect.
A scene aspect. Do you want to create one?
Yeah, maybe we could do that.
Yeah, because that's how that works. The room, if there were any already, I would place them, and I guess there is one, right? Shadowy chamber. But you can create a new one. What are you thinking of doing? What's the aspect you want to do, and how does Aurora create that aspect?
I think that as she's scanning, and Sparky's already like scanned around with his flashlight eyes, and now he's in battle doge mode, but she notices there's a lot of things hanging from the ceiling that could easily be shot down.
Yeah,
And
totally. There's lots
especially-
of like vines, and like the ceiling itself is pretty like cracked and and damaged. Sure.
So basically, like and not just that, but like, what used to be like lavish things hanging over her to like sort of decorate the area in which she sits in, and
The concept art for this scene is primo. So go ahead and make a careful roll, I guess.
okay.
Or in this case, it's clever. You're trying to find existing stuff and make it take an advantage of it. So roll clever. I would say the difficulty like 2. It's not hard. Okay.
Yeah, two.
Now, if you want to, what do you want to call it? Precarious debris.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess.
Because the idea is it's just that there's lots of like
the sky is falling.
There's potential for the whole thing to come falling down.
The debris of Damocles.
Yeah. I mean, anything.
Hard hat area.
Yeah. Okay. I think we all understand whatever we call it. And then you'll have a free use of it. I can use it too, but I have to pay for it. You like look around and you get a structural analysis of the place fed to you by Sparky. And so Quinn, while she's out in the shadows doing this, you slam and the pillar like crumbles under your hand, and there's blood dripping off of your arm. You're holding this sort of crushed rock, and she shakes her head and she says, "You always were difficult, Quinn." And as always, she speaks at a whisper, but the chamber carries the whisper throughout the whole room. Why couldn't you be like the other males? Keep your emotions to yourself. You are why the universe hates us. And she's saying it, and as she says that, the Vipers nod and are like, "Yeah, like fuck you, Quinn." Like they buy in completely, right? They know that she's just saying it's true, right? Like, I dropped this rock. Gravity is why it fell. The lizard people have fallen on hard times because of Quinn. Same deal. And she says that there are rumors in the shadow of the mountain. They say you are the Blixnort Labelacta. And she starts laughing, and then on about a second henchman delay, the Vipers also are like, "Ha, laughable." And she says, "Haven't enough suffered under your leadership? Do you wish for more to die because of your mistakes?"
Quinn looks down at the blood on the ground and looks up at her and says, "Only one more needs to die." And he gives her the death glare, and his claws come out and he's just done. He's so tired of this shit.
Yeah.
And he's ready. He's ready to throw down.
Yeah, I think she sees that and she laughs, and she says, "So, what? You've come here to kill me, to finish the job?" She shakes her head. "You're responsible for the death of the other 11 members of the council. Why not add a 12th?" And she scowls and she says, "You may be able to kill my Vipers, but you cannot kill me. You know this." And she grins at you, and I think that when she says that, and I'm going to offer you a compel, and you can feel free. You got lots of points, but I'd love to offer you a compel here. I think that she's right. I think that you are genetically predisposed. You are bred to be unable to hurt her. They made you this way, and she is still the last. You're the last guardian, and she's still the last counselor. And no matter how much you hate her, something like your claws retract, and you know it to be true.
I will accept this compel.
Mm-hmm.
And Yeah, I'll not only accept it, but Quinn, his claws retract, and he looks at her and says, you're right. There's no way I could kill you. And then he looks at the other chairs and he says, there's no way I could kill any council member. Because he's genetically disposed, he can't kill any of them because that's who he is. And he's like, you've known this forever. Yet somehow they are dead. And he like stares back at her.
Yeah.
And he's like, the only one who can kill a council member is another council member.
And she shakes her head and she says, if only the science, Krish, could have bred out your incompetence, your foolishness, your hot-headedness. You could have been perfect, Quinn. But instead, this is what we got. She like gestures to you. And she says, oh my God, this is awesome. So she says, but in your absence, I've been working on your replacement. And you hear chains like rattling. And we hard cut over to a big metal gate being lifted at the edge of the space. And you hear this like deep, like this roar. And out on his like huge gnarled knuckles is like a giant, like, size and a half version of Quinn. And it looks like eerily like you if you got like combined Hulk and Bane and then Quinn all together, like huge, like way overdone muscles, probably some degree of like cybernetic, like something, like he's got tubes coming out of him. These huge like dripping jaws, and he just like comes out on his knuckles sort of ape-like and like roars into the room. And he's got this big like shock collar on. And and stares down at you. And Rex, you and Aurora see, he's like a rancor, exactly. You see this huge rancorous version of Quinn kind of come into the room.
You see me like behind something, and you just slowly see my head just disappear.
Oh my God, it looks exactly like the statue of you outside. It's exactly
Oh my God.
Oh no.
It's the image of you and it has like the same like black scales. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. So it's like staring into the literal, like, that's how they see you. And they've made this biologically, like this engineered creature to destroy you. It's your inner demons. It's a metaphor. So she just like puts her hands up and she shakes her head and she's like, yeah, we've made you better. And then someone somewhere, like, I think maybe she presses a button on her throne because she's got buttons on her throne.
Of course.
And there's like a beep and then a shock of electricity as the creature like roars and like slams his hands into the wall in rage and then looks down at you and sees you. And, we get a flash of like a sequence of like sort of Clockwork Orange-esque like scenes of this creature like strapped to a chair with his eyes like pinned open, watching footage of you and like being shocked over and over. And like we see other lizards dressed in like a Quinn costume, like poking.
Oh no.
Just like over and over.
You can't kill him. It's not his fault.
Just force feeding him like growth hormones and steroids.
Yeah, totally. And playing like recordings of Quinn's voice talking about stuff and like, just because they have all these things. And then like his training of him like attacking statues of you and knocking them over and like roaring. And then maybe the last thing that we see is him in his pen. He's in this small pen with like some straw and stuff, and we see him just like staring into a mirror. He's got this big like a mirror on the side of his pen. He's just staring into it, and we see him snarling and like punching the ground and like hitting next to the mirror and like roaring. And then we cut back to him, and we see him staring at you. And we see you like reflected in his big yellow eyes, and he like roars into the air and then charges at you.
Yeah, Quinn is not even like, he's like, fuck it. And claws out and just jumps off the pedestal, slow motion, 300 style, and just goes at this dude.
Okay, so the two of you charge towards each other and you like leap at him, like roaring and lunging at you.
It's like Hulk versus Grey
my
Hulk.
stunt though? Can I activate my stunt?
Yeah, sure.
Which is to hack anything when I feel threatened, and a giant abomination lizard comes out that's absolutely terrifying. I think I feel a little threatened right now. I mean, I'm already hiding.
Mm-hmm.
Now
He's got cybernetics on him.
he has cybernetics on him. Somehow, either on him or in her throne, can I activate it to where so much shock goes through his collar that he is crippled from it?
No, like it's not strong enough. It's just there to antagonize him. Like you could attack him with it. You could cause him some damage. But there's not enough electricity in that little thing to do anything but piss him off. It's a goad, not a like a failsafe.
Can I actually do the opposite then and make her chair into a shock chair? Like
not really. Like
How would you do that?
For hacking
all so ritzy and stuff.
for hacking electronics, what it does is it stops them from functioning the way that you want. It's not a like make electronics do anything you want them to do.
But
you could disable the shock collar completely. Like she couldn't shock him anymore.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the point of like hacking is like stopping it from doing what it normally does.
Okay. No, I'm gonna hack his collar instead, and instead of it like being whenever she wants to shock him, it just nonstop, just like absolutely shocks him, and at the max voltage that it can, the whole time.
Okay.
So to be sort of like he's getting.
Do you want it to be like an ever-present distraction for
Pretty
him?
much. Yeah, like it's always there, and I what I'm hoping for is that he realizes like that's her controlling it, right? Her control.
No. He knows that Quinn is the source of all of his suffering.
Yeah, he's a mindless idiot.
So he's
Yeah.
just gonna
You
go
gotta check
after
him
Quinn regardless. Well, hopefully this is like.
But I gave you an aspect on him called gimme shock treatment, and you have two. Anybody in the group has two free shots on it.
There you go.
So it just like starts going, and he just like he roars and starts pulling on it. He's definitely distracted. So if anybody needs a boost, you can use it against him. It's very cool. Yeah. So yeah, he comes charging towards you. His shock collar like sending bolts of electricity through him. Quinn comes running to leap and attack him. And before the two of you collide, we cut to the temple. So you're at the top of the stairs. It's you and Emotak, Eugene, and you're standing amidst these six huge pillars, and each pillar is carved with images of lizard men experiencing emotions. So like one of the pillars, there are lizard men like, laughing boisterously, making the lizard equivalent of like a smile. So it's the pillar of happiness. And there's like a pillar of them all, like many of them like shaking in terror, and that's the pillar of fear. And so we see all these pillars as we go around.
Each pillar just has a different emoji on it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great.
The last one's poop.
Yeah,
This little poop emoji.
And so we get this long shot all the way around. It comes back to Emotak and Eugene, and Emotak is explaining the purpose of the stairs of discovery, right? That he says, each stair represents. It's like it's this long-winded. Like he's finishing the story, and he says, and that is why one must climb the stairs of discovery to clear one's mind for the trials of the Blixnort. Do you understand, Eugene?
Boy, who wouldn't after all that?
And how does this story make you feel?
If I were to choose a word, I would say that I feel enlightened.
And what does enlightenment feel like?
It feels warm. I feel a warmness in my goo.
He nods and he says, "That's gross, Eugene. I'd like to show you something." And he goes to put his arm around you, and he's like, come here. And he leads you over, and we see this pillar. And as you walk towards it, he's saying, he says, at first, when I saw you putrefying the well with your disgusting body, I thought,
sure, right. We'll never move past that. That's okay.
Another heretic that we must punish in the name of the Blixnort. But I realize now that your filth may have a purpose yet. And he gestures to this pillar. And the pillar is all carvings of lizard men like barfing and like looking like they've eaten something gross or they smell something disgusting. And he says, this pillar represents one of the 6 feelings the Blixnort must master. Do you know what feeling that is, Eugene?
If I had to venture a guess, it would be disgust.
And he nods and he's like, yes, it is the pillar of disgust.
I don't know if I like where this is going, buddy.
He says, in our studies of emotion, we have learned that one often feels most strongly when they can connect their feelings to another person. And he hesitates on person, like he's like, is that the word we use for you? And he says, when we can connect it to other people. I believe that you were brought here to help the Blixnort Libelacta understand his disgust. For truly, you are the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And he looks at you like, that's a beautiful compliment. He's like, I feel like I might throw up right now.
You know, it's been a while since I've met someone who was so open with their feelings. You should be proud. You've done your work.
And he nods and he says, I believe that you have been brought to this temple to prepare the Blixnort, and that when he arrives, he will need your help, Eugene. I need you to prepare.
That's what I've been saying.
I need you to prepare yourself. I need you. And he like reaches out to touch you, but doesn't. He hesitates. He's like, I need you to be even more disgusting. Can you do that, Eugene?
Are we wiping to a fucking montage right now?
I mean, if you say yes, if you're like, tie on your fucking Karate Kid bandana, you're like, I can do this. I can be grosser. Yes, we would cut. Yeah, we would cut to the like training montage of you learning how to be the most disgusting possible slime ever.
You know what? Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So what does your disgusting training montage look like? How does Eugene practice to become more gross than he already is?
Well, it would have to be like things that they've thought of, right? Because I'm just like, you know what? I'm just here for the fucking ride. Whatever. What do you guys think is gross, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Quinn, if you had to list 3 things.
Yeah, what grosses Quinn?
Yeah, that lizard people think are like physical things that lizard people think are gross, aside from feelings, obviously.
1, grasshopper poop. We hate it.
Great.
It's gross. It's notoriously gross.
So we
2.
see a scene of Eugene at a grasshopper farm, and there are these lizard men just like shoveling manure onto you and like rubbing it on your body. Yeah. Teaching you to be as.
And I'm just like.
2, the color pink, notoriously gross. We hate it so much.
Sure.
So that one would be like Eugene in this. I guess you can tell me if Eugene is capable of doing this, but I imagine Eugene can probably try really hard and change color. So they're probably like color testing you. So they're like Emotalk is sitting there, and it's basically the equivalent of like the change room like makeover thing where we pull aside the curtain and you're like kind of purple, and Emotalk shakes his head like no, not enough. And close it.
I'm like red. Like
he's like like he gags a little. He's like, no, you can do better. Closes it and like opens it, and yeah, you're this like shocking pink color, and he just like like this barfs on him like thumbs up as he like wipes barf off his snout.
The last thing, most important.
I know this one.
Oh yeah.
I'll let you decide then. Yeah.
Body hair.
I was gonna say hair. Hair. We hate hair. Hair is the grossest thing to lizard people. We hate it so much. Yeah, hair. You're absolutely right. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page.
Awesome. So I think that what they're doing here is they're showing you pictures of like 70s and 80s like Earth celebrities with lots of hair. So it's like a picture of Kenny Rogers, and they're like, "Can you try to do this?" And like just various pictures of people with like beards and like lots of body hair and stuff, like showing you these. One of them is an ape. They can't tell humans and monkeys apart, so they show you like a picture of like Coco the gorilla.
One of them is Chewbacca.
Yeah.
You're trying to shapeshift into things that look like those. Awesome. All right, so you're trying to become more and more disgusting, and I think that that's where we go to our last break. We fade out on on you just trying to really embrace your disgustingness. I'm proud of what you're doing for your friend here. Good work.
Thank you.
So we'll.
Are you doing anything for your friend? What are you doing?
I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah, so we'll have more Nebula Jazz after the break, where no one knows what's going on and we just kind of play it by ear. So stick around. We'll be right back.